As we head into the penultimate week, the playoff picture is shaping up. See how it looks on this week's episode of the IndyCar Report podcast. All right, we're back in episode number 336 of the IndyCar Report podcast. It is the heart of playoff watch season. We have some really fun races for a change. It's nice.
Yeah, we have some actual drama. I mean, before getting back into it, I was just saying how the Pioneer League race was getting a little bit boring, but I wasn't expecting to completely flip once we were recording. Yeah, we do have, at least in a couple of the leagues, half the leagues, yes, we'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give the Americans some more due here, and we're going to start there this week because we haven't started there in a little bit now. But I want to give them some drama there because there is some interesting jockeying for positioning, even if it's pretty clear cut who's going to be in the postseason. Although, props to Cleburne, right? They have managed to back fumble their way to making that race kind of fun. I appreciate that from Pete.
Yeah, Cleburne would really commit to the bit of being absolutely insufferably inconsistent.
Really,
62% of the people on the poll on my Instagram story said Cleburne fumbles this.
Hi, I'm one of them people.
To be fair, that was before they at least got a win tonight, but still got 10 games to go, up by what, 3? Tell the people about it.
Oh, yeah, we're going to really go ahead and cheer on that they scraped past Kansas City, who has nothing left to really play for.
True. Sorry, I'm also just taking the fact that Winnipeg is somehow now over 2 weeks behind Fargo. So that's how sealed that playoff situation is.
Well, I mean, the fact that the whole West Division clinched before two teams in the East clinched.
Oh, my God.
Just tell us what we're dealing with here.
That's a tough look.
I mean, technically speaking, the worst team in the league in the Gary South Shore Railcats are still eligible for the postseason.
Yeah, and frankly, they're only a game and a half off of Lincoln for the worst spot. So,
to wrap up the non-playoff teams that aren't going to make the postseason, even if they technically could make the postseason, Chuck, imagine if they would have fired Lamar and got Isom in there, I don't know,
in February,
third week of June.
Well, no, here's my thing. You're missing the real thing. Because let's not pretend here. Chicago, let's really walk this through. Chicago didn't have a manager until late. Remember this.
Yeah.
Chicago had a lot of guys who we know for a fact were like, I do not want to go back to Chicago. And a lot of them did end up going back to Chicago, basically, because they're sort of in flux. They don't really have anywhere they're sure about going. But if Isom went from Chicago to Gary, how many of those guys could he have brought with him? That's my question. I'm not saying a lot, but I'm saying there could be a few.
There would have been a few. It's just a matter of
they would have had a lot more roster flexibility than starting it in July. I'll tell you that much.
I feel like we find out the answer to that question in about, give or take 5 months.
It could be less than that. We'll see.
I figure some of them are going to hold out for a little bit.
I'm trying to think, just as a look ahead, and before we continue back to playoff talk, I'm trying to think where. I'm trying to think when it usually happens. It must be early 2025 in the transactions last year. So when there's usually a rush of we're renewing contracts with this guy or whatever, I'm always interested by who you don't hear from for a minute. And that usually in the American Association feels like some sort of indication that the team's trying to have him back and he's like, I'm going to let the contract sit for a minute. That's when, if we see a bunch of that with Chicago, that'll be interesting. Though, I mean, look, that Chicago team, when we shouted out a few weeks ago, they're really handling their business. So who knows if it's a good time, but they're handling their business on the field.
Honestly, that's the segue into that's a streaky-ass Chicago team.
Yes, it is. I mean, by the way, ignoring the fact that Lake Country's just lost 7 in a row, but sure.
Oh, no, I don't believe they're a real team. So you got to understand something here. Fargo would be first place in the East, and Fargo is currently the last place team. Our last playoff team, I should say, in the West. So, let's be real here. And I think I was going to say confident say Fargo had tougher competition, but the schedule's so condensed that sure, but you're playing everybody anyway. So
I'm a little curious. Like, I was going to try to do the thing of like, if Winnipeg was in the other league, would they be a playoff team? Probably not.
it is kind of wild to me though. Looking back on Chicago, it's like you beat Fargo, you swept Lake Country, you took the last game against Gary after dropping 2 to Gary and 3 of 6 to Gary.
It is quite the thing. I mean, look, I'm not going through all of it, but I am like Winnipeg, who is, famously 14 games out of the playoffs in the West Division and in 5th place. Winnipeg has a 2-1 record against Lake Country this season and a 3-3 record against Chicago. So that's the top 2 teams in the East. So who knows what would have happened if they were in the East Division? It's a bad team. A bad division.
We talked in length here, right, about how this Anthony Barone-led team is oddly bad for his standard.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not out of the postseason by any stretch here. Mm-hmm. And like, I get this is part of the appeal of having 8 of 12 teams with the postseason is, look, there's always a race to the end. But like, should there be a playoff race between a team that's 8 games under 500 and a team that's 14 under 500?
Yeah, especially when they could like upset a legit team. Now it's less of a risk when that legit team's Lake Country because legit ? But like,
legit in parentheses or in quotations.
When did Lake Country clinch a playoff spot? Like 2 days ago?
Yeah, 2-3 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because they're not just like at the beach right now. Like, they're not just checked out waiting. Like they haven't had this locked up. I don't know. For the record, I think Winnipeg, my back of the napkin math is Winnipeg is about 500 against the 4 current playoff teams in the East Division.
Like,
funny, pretty funny.
I will give Lake Country this much. They were on a run prior to this.
Well, yeah.
They won
I agree.
5 in a row, but then they come back with 7 losses.
I always say, that team has almost like post to post been leading the way in the East Division. In the East Division, in the American Association, leading almost the whole year over Chicago, Kane County, Cleburne, Milwaukee even. And I think most of the time this year, they have not sniffed the top 10 when we do the rankings. It's just crazy. But like, it says a lot about what that division is right now.
Because here's the problem. They go up against, their supposed peer. And it's just like very clear.
Mm-hmm.
They're not peers.
I mean, I will say Lake Country, and Sioux City are split this year, I believe. They played 6 games against each other in June and they split. So,
I mean, that's early in the year though. And I am looking
the Sioux City's run is a little more recent though. They were more of a July-August push, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's when they really started pulling away. Because at that point when they played, Kansas City was still the hot team over there.
Right.
Which, looking back here, at least to my rankings, seeing as I kept track of them in a Google Doc, which I feel like is the way to do it.
Yeah, I've been keeping track of mine on a spreadsheet for a while, which is kind of a garbage fire. Still going to post the rankings. Again, this has been an issue with me having the new job.
Week 5 is the first time that they appeared in my ranking. That was at the 10th spot. Week 6, they jumped up to number 6, which was their highest point. And then in week 7, they fell off completely. I don't believe they've been back since.
I will point to that the American Association had to post Cleburne winning a must-win tonight, and I'm like, shouldn't be though. It should not be Cleburne. Come on now.
I don't want to get too negative because already this week I caught shit for being too negative. So I will minimize it to just this comment. I appreciate deeply the some social media presence of the American Association. They are by far the best league, with realistically only the Frontier League posting any kind of competition.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, kind of a self-owned, boys, when you don't put Sioux City in the clinched graphic.
Yeah, they're the one team that wasn't included. That was tough.
Yeah, and someone pointed it out, And then Dan Vaughn, their broadcast, was like, "No, this is just lazy. They never asked for a picture."
Yeah, that's a banger right there. I was like, "Ooh, let's get spicy, boys." All
I
right.
was like, "Yo, that's wild." Dan's going off on him.
So yeah, I will shout out the fact that like it is nice when there's a week, like like I was away for a week, and we were doing the podcast like right when I got back, and I was like, oh god, all right, like
Yeah,
God, I don't know what happened. It was nice at least for the American Association to literally just go through their socials and get the gist, and I was like, oh, like all right, understand it. Had a milestone over here, had a couple walk offs over here, sick, nice catch, awesome, got it, done. I'd love for that. I would love for that for every league. I'd do that for every league if you want me to.
actually talking ball now, though. Yeah, the problem with the East really is the top two teams are streaky as hell and not particularly strong in any category, and the bottom two are just not good ball clubs.
Yes, quite clear.
And it's kind of wild when you think about it, because you'd say like a Kane County team that won a championship last year and has George Samus in the dugout should be able to put together a better roster and better performance than this. And you would imagine that Inky would be able to put together a better squad than what he has in Cleburne here, but frankly, neither year he's been down there have been that overly impressive of a roster. They had a great regular season last year, but then like just kind of forgot what they were doing come postseason time.
Well, I mean, look, you're talking about forgetting what the hell they were doing. What about Milwaukee? So I think this will be a bigger topic as we move forward into the offseason. I think it's going to be a rich offseason for content because things seemed I've had multiple conversations now with some like long time indie ball people, just like off the record talks. And they have all really said between 1990, mid 90s, say, and mid 2000s, there was like that one era where like you had a lot of like vets coming out and just playing some ball. Like it was kind of the Wild West, teams coming and going, all that. And then things settled down a little bit. And then he said basically between 2005 and like 2018, 19 toward COVID, it was kind of the same. There was very little evolution in how it worked and all this stuff. And they're saying like the evolution, like, and then it's not like it evolved to this new thing it is now. They're saying it is current, and we'll talk about what this means at another time, but like just for a simple explanation, it's like the current thing now isn't what it evolved to from pre-COVID. It is still evolving. Like we have not reached the next phase of indie ball, and it is changing rapidly in a way that we hasn't, and for a long period of time now, in a way that it hasn't. And it's just volatility. It's volatility economically, technologically, politically. Like there's so much happening and moving that it's just the situation off season is completely different. Like you might have luck recruiting one way, but like if you aren't really keeping a finger on the pulse, it's gonna be hard. I mean, the one thing I've really seen consistently is like a guy who's got good word of mouth, and that seems to help. Where like guys will come and like do the recruiting for you, but even that struggles at times. And now, and you see it sort of having consistency. So like, yeah, man, it's interesting. Like I think it's that will definitely be a big conversation topic in the offseason of what is happening to the model that was working.
I definitely see that though. I mean, like you have a lot more of an actual player base to pull from now with the draft being shortened down, there being fewer affiliates. But at the same time, though, the quality almost isn't there as much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot more in those guys that before probably, yeah, they would have been drafted. They would have went to an affiliate system, a short season A-ball team, or they would have just been kept around more. And your older kind of player that was like, did we keep him? Did we not keep him? Would have just been cut and thrown out and would have came to indie ball. Now maybe kept around because you're not really, I don't want to say buying fool's gold on like some like 18-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid, but for more or less the term, you're buying fool's gold on that and keeping that around. That and a mixture of when you have so many guys to have to sort through, your odds of pulling the right guy are not great. And I do wonder too, now, with there being fewer affiliate spots, do guys that before would have said, yeah, you know what, let me stick it out, do indie ball for a year or two, try to catch on somewhere and see what happens? Are they now just saying, you know what, I really don't need to ride a bus for another 2 years. I think I'm good.
Yeah, and I think too, there's the aspect of there's so many guys who just feel, and I think this specifically on the pitching side. I'm sure it's also not, but very much on the pitching side, let's be honest, is the concept of just data. Like, get some video and some data out there, and I don't need to be pitching live games. I don't need to be going deep into ball games, like risking elbow health, doing all that, taking the bus rides. I can just throw every few days here. I see the argument. I think why indie ball is great is because what we've learned already in the analytics era is that's not the be all end all. There's a reason that the A's didn't win when they were in their prime. There's a reason the Rays haven't won a World Series, and it's because when it comes down to it, it's how you manage games, and specifically the ones at the end of the year. And I think guys are, pitchers is, for lack of a better term, game managers is something that, is valued, and that's why indie ball really helps you figure out what a pitcher, like who a pitcher actually is. But yeah, when it comes to, if you really believe you can throw one nasty pitch and it's going to be enough to get you picked up, that's not necessarily wrong. That's also making it extremely difficult. There's dudes telling Atlantic League managers, I'm good.
But when you get down to it, though, unless you're getting paid a solid salary, what's your incentive?
Right. That's where the Pioneer League has fumbled so bad. Because they're the ones paying way more than they outsized amount of money for the level and just cannot put together a serious league.
There is a lot of change coming up. We'll talk about them more as we get into the depths of the offseason, but we still do have playoff talk to really get into and really deep dive here. It's going to be interesting to see if A, we can get 3 teams above 500 in the East Division. That's a big question mark there. And secondly, what's going to be the sub 500 team that gets in there? Is Milwaukee going to eke their way in, or is Cleveland going to manage to not embarrass themselves? And meanwhile, in the West,
I'm going to hop in here and say they're not going to get 3 teams above 500. And you mean what below 500 teams are going to get in the playoffs? Because
that's fair.
Kane County mostly steps on rakes since winning that last championship.
And also, in total fairness, like Chicago could finish sub 500 too. It's not likely, but they could in theory. The sideshow bob of teams, the King County Cougars.
Good, it's a good reference. Because again, they've had their moment. It was unexpected, and at the very end, they had their moment. But then after, in the follow-up episodes, you realize it really wasn't what it seemed.
Yeah.
And we're back to rake stepping. Back at it. Are we still in the American Association? Good Lord.
The West Division, it's a very tight race. It's going to be a lot more entertaining when we start to figure this out. There's 10 games left in it.
Yeah.
Sioux City should have this wrapped up. They don't have it formally clinched yet, but I got to imagine before the time we record next, it will be wrapped.
Yeah,
I imagine by Tuesday, Wednesday, the latest, should have it. They'll get to pick their opponent, and then we'll see where they decide to go from there.
Yeah, I think... I'm cool not talking about the West as much in this situation because, I think we're going to be talking to them quite a bit in the playoffs. And, and sure, they're still competing for seeding or whatever, but not really because there's only one seed that matters and it's pre-wrapped.
Yeah, the Kansas City will get a home game out of this. I am curious to see just how Sioux City decides this. Do they want to go Falls, who's kind of like their inverse? Do they want to go Fargo, who's had a real insanity run there and now starting to taper off? I assume they're not going to go Kansas City. That would just be stupid to do that. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what route they decide to go. I think they just wind up going Fargo in the end. Keep it simple, keep it basic.
They are 5-2 against Sioux Falls this year, and they're 6-6 against Fargo. Don't know how much that'll come into play, but
I will say in the East, though, if you're Lake Country, you assume we're not going to continue to lose out the rest of the way, and you're going to try to win the division. And if you win the division, well, either them or Chicago, who will win it. How much are you a Milkman fan for the sole purpose of taking that Cleburne trip off the board?
Oh, right. Honestly, just keep this all up in the Midwest. Not a bad vibe.
Because if you're Lake Country,
a bad vibe.
Going from Omak to what is it again? Franklin, I think, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a whole hell of a lot better of a trip than going all the way to Cleburne, Texas. It's a better trip if you're going from Rosemont, Illinois to Franklin. And if you're in Geneva, Illinois, it's a lot better to go to Franklin than it is to go to Cleburne. Any which way you slice it, nobody wants to go to Cleburne. Interesting post to be at. So hopefully we'll be able to do some playoff previewing next week for them. One league that is still very much in flux, though, that we won't get to preview is the Atlantic League, and that's where we head next. Lancaster, a really good week from them. They retained the division. They scored some wins against the Ducks. They beat up on a Gastonia team that's kind of sort of hot, but not as much as of late. And the Revs are kind of coming on a little bit, maybe. Not so much, but maybe.
Coincidental. I mean, they're still 6 back. I don't really think. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I'm interested more in what's going on down south at this point.
Well, before we get to south, just second half.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking. Stormers. The question is, are they going to be able to hold off the Ducks? Because the Ducks have that hanger around thing. Part of it that's interesting here is that the Ducks are let's see, I'm just making sure my math checks out, pretty comfortably above the wild card cut line. They're like 8 games up in the wild card right now.
Well, see, that's the thing though, and that's what
so how hard are they
from the North contest here. It's just like it's going to be one of those two that win the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming we get another wild card opening up, which is very much a situation that can happen, the other one's going to be in.
Because, I mean, Long Island's going to push because obviously there's no guarantee that the wild card happens. So they have to push for the division, right? But there is a chance that they let their foot off the gas if Gastonia opens up something on Gastonia here. So that is something for Lancaster. Long Island's been hotter than Lancaster recently. They just took out 3 from them as well. So I think Long Island's a better team. I think Lancaster has really feasted on bad teams. That said, Long Island hasn't necessarily not done that, but I think they've also beaten some good teams. I don't know. Lancaster, they're pretty even. I'll say that. I think head to head, I just like Long Island more. We'll simplify it that way. We're not going to take shots at anybody's schedule. I think they're a more complete, well put together team, and they're often some more explosive than Lancaster has been able to figure out so far. And boy, do they beat up on Hagerstown. Goodness. But who doesn't? It's the thing to do.
I mean, also Lancaster's record's a little inflated by winning, 11 in a row?
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah, and what cooled that off? Well, the series with Long Island. So, that does have a way of doing it. I'm just trying to flip back again to that win streak, just for a reminder for people. That win streak took place with 3 games against Staten Island, 3 against Southern Maryland, 3 against Staten Island, 2 against Hagerstown. So not really heavy hitters.
I mean, in total fairness, and again, this is more devil's advocate point. There's not a lot of heavy hitters in that division.
It's true. It is not many heavy hitters. There are not many heavy hitters in the league currently. Which goes back to, and you might be saying, well, what about the South Division? Because there's a good race down there. Our argument has been more so lately, though you and I have disagreed on who the real, perpetrator of it is. That the South Division's not made of real teams either. And that's why a lot of them stick so closely together. I think High Point's legit and High Point's a little bit coasting. And then from there, it's Gastonia who gets exposed and Lexington who gets exposed. And then Charleston is, I don't think, a good team. So I think that's pretty clear at this point.
And then there's Southern Maryland that's in the corner eating paste this second half after having a somewhat respectable first half.
I know. And I don't want to dunk on it, but I am kind of I got some really chippy messages about my takes on Southern Maryland because I had them losing a lot of games and look, they were better than expected, but I think a lot of that was the rest of the league was worse than expected. And I still was like, yeah, you guys are going to get buried in the second half. And here we are, bottom of the South. And I just want to say, I don't love that for you guys, but if you're going to get chippy about it, I will say, at least I told you so on that one. But that is a team that at least showed signs of growth, which is something Southern Maryland badly needed this year. So kudos to them for getting this kind of cruise in the right direction.
Fair.
And still the best team in Maryland. So
Hagerstown's the competition here. 25 wins.
Here's the futures bet here.
Okay.
Who has a winning season in the Atlantic League first? Hagerstown or Aberdeen? The still unannounced Aberdeen potential Atlantic League team, who is supposed to be in the draft league for at least a year.
I feel like it's probably at least 2 years. Because I imagine it's probably draft league contract, so it's like 2 to 3 that you're required to be there. So you're probably looking forward until realistically they're there. This is closer than I want it to be.
Yeah, I know, right? Because we've seen the Atlantic League, a team can first year just get after it. Though it is something we're studying, is like you can make a dent in your first year and you're kind of rolling, or you don't, and you're probably not rolling for years, which is another interesting one. It's sort of like if you don't launch right, you're in trouble for half a decade.
I'm gonna go Hagerstown just because we see random ass years where teams just like pop up and then disappear. Now, if you were to ask me who has a winning season first, Gary or Hagerstown? Oh,
Gary
gotta be.
We're feeling the boys out in Gary right now.
I'm riding that Union Night high right now.
Oh, how could you not? The momentum.
Got me some Jeff Isom in the veins.
That sweet blue collar momentum.
Yeah.
The boys are cooking.
He's got the big I-beam in town now. Yo, if Isom's nickname is not the I-beam, what are we doing here?
Dude, I need the t-shirts. Gary, I know you're not listening because you have like a 3-person front office, but like somebody let Gary know. That's
we have the next best.
Just tweeted,
Kyle, I know you're listening. Tell Joanne, because we have his phone number.
Run up the chain.
I-beam.
Running up the chain, boys. Here we go. I will also point out that they do avoid being donked on quite a bit, but Staten Island is 4 years into the Atlantic League and they have not broke 500 yet.
Look, they had a rough home life.
Oh no, never mind. Charleston, by the way, is running up on 1 season in 5 that they've been above 500. And we're looking at Lexington. They're 1 game over 500 now. I think they lost tonight, so they're at 500. And I think that would be their first 500 season since they won the championship. Hilarious. And by the way, I will point out too, we think a lot about how good that 2021 Lexington team was. They were 500 for the season. Well, so really they've never been above 500 technically. So this could be Lexington's first above 500 season in the Atlantic League.
Wild.
What is happening out there? Dude, tough to be a new team. We've said this before.
I'm going to throw 3 teams out there. Who gets to 500 first?
Give it to me.
Hagerstown.
Okay.
Brockton. Lincoln.
Oh, okay. I was expecting Atlantic League. I was expecting Atlantic League. So give me a second here. Let me think on this for 1 sec. Oh, that's good though. Yeah. I mean, Lincoln is, I'd hate to say it because it's Brett. I mean, Lincoln is going the wrong way. I think they have a chance to break 38 wins, which would mean this is the first year they didn't go backwards in wins since Brett got there. But I think they're going backwards. And I don't know they're going to break 38, frankly. They have a tough schedule at the end here. That leaves us with Brockton. Oh, goodness. I mean, Brockton was significantly better this year than last year. So I'm tempted to say Brockton. I mean, Brockton went from, oh my God, no, they weren't. I forgot New England won so many games last year.
Yeah, no, they got hot at the end.
Yeah, they played a lot of New Jersey teams. So they also need to get to 38, I think. I think they have the same win totals, by the way, as Lincoln. Sitting at 34 now, trying to get to 38 to break even with last year. Oh, it's not going to be Hagerstown. Hagerstown is is
Dreadful.
tragic. They're really a situation. So the situation then is Brockton or Lincoln. My thing, okay, so here's where I get in the weeds, right? I think Brockton is getting situated and settled, right? I think it's more likely to see an improvement after 2 years in the league. Meanwhile, there's Lincoln, who, if they don't get it done in the next 2 years, that will probably end Brett Jody's contract, I think. And I think then they're going to have to bring in somebody and don't tell me that they're going to get that. There's a chance to get significantly better, like the Winnipeg jump a couple years ago. But like, do we really believe in that from Lincoln? I might go Brockton.
I'm not saying either way because, like, I think there's a case for everybody. But going Brockton when they have Ottawa, Tri-City, Quebec in their division.
Yeah, that is a tough set there. But also Trois-Rivières, who's just
Just the same as them.
Pretty much shown that they're not going to be a serious team. And they also are at least in the same league as New Jersey Down East ? And Sussex, who any year the wheels could fall off that operation. I'm hung up on the fact that last year Hagerstown went 36-89, and we're like, well, that was a nightmare. Can't go worse than that. And then, and they went and like lost almost every game to York. And then this year they somehow lost more games to York, and now they're on pace for 31-94. Like, what, dude? How? And I mean, what's their winning percentage with each manager is the other thing I got to figure out. I don't know, man. Hagerstown's a bad baseball team. I don't know if it's Brockton or Lincoln breaking 500 first, but I know Hagerstown's a bad baseball team. I don't know.
I'm glad we established that. On
they're
the note
20
of
games,
playoff
they're
baseball,
20 games behind Staten Island in that division.
On the note of playoff-based baseball,
Yeah.
do you have anything else for the Atlantic League this week? Or
just a reminder for people who aren't super checked in on what the playoff race looks like. We'll say, so yeah, it's Long Island 2 games behind Lancaster at the moment, and the real one to watch is the South Division, which has a tie at the top between High Point and Gastonia. So there's a couple things to note here, so I'll give some clarifiers. One, if High Point wins the South Division, that means there is a wild card because they also won the first half. That wild card currently is led fairly comfortably by Long Island. If Long Island is winning the division at that time, it wins the North, for instance, so they're not going to be the wild card. That would mean the wild card falls to Lancaster, which is why there's not a ton of drama going on there with that, who's doing it the wild card situation. Now, beyond that whole debacle, we have the interesting one, which is what happens with, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull this back up. There we go. What happens with certain weird situations here? So the one that bothers me to no end about the way the Atlantic League operates is if High Point and Gastonia, it's very important. Class, are we watching? Good. If High Point and Gastonia tie for the division win in the South this half, and High Point owns the tiebreaker, they do not care. The first tiebreaker in the Atlantic League is, have you won the division yet? If you have, tough break, you didn't win the second half. So that would mean all Gastonia has to do is tie the South Division to get into the playoffs. If you won a wild card and you need High Point to win it, that means High Point needs to outright win the division. That drives me insane because it's really annoying that a tiebreaker can determine who wins the division, and then we can just pretend that's not how it works the next year or the next half. So whatever, not going to go on the rant there. With that, as far as we can tell, if we do get the situation where High Point creates a wild card by winning the South Division again, we'll have 3 North Division teams in, and as far as we can tell, High Point would be matched up against the team that did not win either half in the North. So they'll be playing whoever loses the North Division between Long Island and Lancaster. So I hope you follow that. There you go. Congratulations. I'm in hell.
Yeah. There's some Hagerstown talk we weren't expecting and a good playoff update.
Nice.
So, yeah, we'll be talking a lot more Atlantic League in the future because like they run for forever. So Do you want to bang out the Pioneer quickly, or do you want to talk about the interesting races in the Frontier League?
Let's rip the Pioneer League real quick.
Okay, Pioneer League. Missoula and Oakland still are a top thing, so nothing really changes there. We're looking wild card.
The boys are running.
Yeah, which belongs currently to Ogden and Idaho Falls.
Yeah, and the race is getting boring.
Yes.
Dumb.
However, the wildcard race is kind of interesting. Boise and Yolo right there.
My disappointment is that race was like, so basically Idaho Falls and Ogden are tied at the top of this, but then they're both in. So it's looking behind them. And it used to be like a half game difference, like a week and a half ago. And now it's like 3.5 games because like Yuba just decided they don't know how to baseball and they got rid of all their players.
Boise 2-8 in their last 10 too.
I mean, trying not to make the playoffs. Absolutely unreal. It's like they made a deal with Idaho Falls that only one Idaho team would go to the playoffs. It is
fair the first half, dude. They'd be
a potato-based contract. I mean, Boise has not had a good time on their California swing. I'll tell you that much. If you're wondering, I really do think it is Oakland and Missoula and the rest. Like, and I think it might be significantly. I think there's a possibility that it's like Missoula and I don't even know where Yuba fits in this, but Yuba regularly beats up teams that like come out there to play them. So I don't really know what to make of Yuba, but it is noteworthy that Boise and Idaho Falls still have 3 games against each other, and Boise and Ogden have 6 against each other. So Boise is very much still in this. And I love that. Ogden has 3 against Idaho Falls and 6 against Boise. Fun. Dude, they're playing each other. It's going to be crazy. This is good. Who's Yuba got? If Yuba has a good schedule here, they could make a run out of nowhere, and it'll be the real one we're looking out for, right? Let's see. The most Pioneer League option possible is this, okay? Yuba finishes out this series against Glacier with some dubs. They have 6 against Oakland, who has beat the hell out of them. Yuba wins more than they lose against an Oakland team that's starting to finish this thing out and prep their pitching staff for the playoffs. And then has 6 games against Missoula, and Missoula is in California right before having to play playoff games. There's a chance Missoula is not going super hard on this either. There's a chance Yuba could pull a good 10 wins out of the last 14 here and make an actual run at this on some teams. And if Yuba backdoor sneaks into the playoffs and then punks Oakland in the first round, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to be like, I don't know what to tell you, Pioneer League. Or, God forbid, does it to Missoula. Doesn't that feel like the most Pioneer League result possible?
Missoula getting upset in the first round? Yeah.
Missoula or Oakland getting beat in the first round, likely by
more Missoula than Oakland, but yeah.
Or really, how unsurprised, based on what you know about the Pioneer League, would you be if in about a month, we're sitting here talking about the championship matchup being between Yuba and Ogden?
That would be so on brand. And also, like, I kind of would love Billy versus Tat Daddy in the championship.
Dude, what? I mean, look, you got to pick a career. I get that. But you can do modeling on the side. And I just feel like there's a couple missed opportunities in that.
I mean, like, those guys are also tight. So that's kind of fun to me to watch 2 guys go out like that. And also, like, the modeling thing just got me.
Thank you. And there's a little part of me that's like, well, Pioneer League, I don't know. That's kind of what you would get for having a ridiculous playoff system. Like, that's what you get for having best of 3s. I get a lot of people with best of 3s, but I just don't respect a best of 3. And you don't that's why
postseason at all, though.
I don't respect the postseason at all. That's the whole thing's a coin flip. If you're not doing a ladder, I'm not interested. That's what you get. Well, full season points, I guess the Premier League or the damn Winston Cup. I don't care. Full season points. I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't have a ton of analysis on the Pioneer League right now because it is we are currently in the point where this weekend is telling us whether or not we actually have a playoff race or not. Because this very much could be mostly over by the time, our next podcast is going. And so that's kind of why we're more invested in like the Atlantic League situation and the American to an extent. And then obviously the Frontier here coming up. But if you're like wanting to talk about the Pioneer League more, it's just because there's not like it is about the wild card, and the wild card is going the wrong direction for an interesting playoff race, not the right.
Well, the problem is half of the league are either in the you screwed yourself in the first half, so you're not in this for the wild card, or you're not a real team. So that's half of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That is
Like,
funny. That is, yeah, looking at the list, it is like a who's who of poorly run teams right now.
yeah, like going top to bottom, pretender team that's probably poorly ran, well ran enough to screw yourself in the first half.
Billings,
Maybe,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
maybe going bankrupt.
Hmm.
Probably best ran of the bunch. Really nice facility. Just can't get your act together on the field.
Potentially weird owners. Huh?
Yeah.
Continue to hear the rumor.
Then whatever the hell Great Falls is, bankrupt, poorly ran. I don't know which, maybe both. Whatever that situation is.
At least they're not doing what they did in the first half, because I was really worried about them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we wrap up with homeless. So that's what half of them are. And then you get 4 that are the middle, right? Where you're above 500. We think you're a good team, but we don't think you're good enough to really be a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of them are probably making payroll, which like bars on the floor lads, but good job getting over it. And like they're not embarrassing themselves openly, which is good. Also, props to Ogden for no longer posting photo dumps every night. Good job, lads.
That just means they'll be posting a bunch in a little bit, but it's fun.
I haven't done it all year, so I'm hoping.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I feel like I've seen a few. I don't know. Maybe they got rid of a couple.
Nah, dude, I haven't seen any this year.
I wonder if someone talked to them. I was like, that's not marketing.
I
They'll
feel
just
like
post long form videos with the team president talking, which I don't hate the vibe, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine.
I like, dude, honestly, there are very few people who can get me completely check into like a multi-minute long Instagram video, and Dave Baggett's one of them. Like, yeah, man, I'll hear you out. Let's go, big dog.
Yeah, like that's the thing. So like I'm fine with that. They're doing their thing here. So like outside of struggling with player insurance, which I think everyone's doing at the moment. So like, hey, good job. Boise seems to be doing fine. And Yuba's got new ownership, so good for them. So like they're at least keeping it together on the field and hiding the cracks off the field, if there are any. So good job. Proud of y'all. And then we have the top 2 where it's like very clearly Oakland, Missoula, probably the best 2 ownerships in this league, clearly the best 2 on the field. And I was going to say to largely avoid bad headlines, but Oakland's whole like players getting robbed thing last year was not great. And so, Missoula though, they're doing great. So like it's just there's very clearly 3 tiers. This should be the title matchup. You all could be playoff teams and that would be acceptable, any combination of y'all. And then, like, I'm make sure we're running the mill bad years, maybe bankrupt, and are homeless.
Yeah. It's no notes. I mean, I would just say at this point, I think I would like it if the playoffs, we refer to like the divisions as like the Missoula division and the Ogden or in the Oakland division, just because they've earned it at this point. And that's clearly what this is. It's like, on one side, it is a playoff side of the playoff bracket that Oakland and Missoula should own on either end. And it's like, we will literally name it after that because it's crazy that you have to, it's their house that you're partying in and you have to try to pull off the heist and make it your own. On the other end, I need to confess that I see a lot of team social media. It all kind of runs together in my head. And I have trouble. Sometimes I'll see something and it won't occur to me that like, oh, I've seen something similar before. I've seen this before, but it won't connect with me that's happening as often as it actually is. Ogden. This is not a criticism. This is an acknowledgement of something unbelievable happening from you, which is the entirety of the advertising on social media for series and upcoming series and games It is not graphics. It is not player content. It is not any of that. It is only Dave down the barrel of the camera telling you what's up. And honestly, I kind of love it. I don't know what to think of it, but I kind of love it because at least it's different. And I get the energy. And if you're like, that's dumb, I'm like, is it? Because technically speaking, that's what Savannah did in the beginning. Just one dude up front. So like there is a basis to it. There is a benefit to familiarity. And I assume he is familiar with, and the crowd is familiar with him. So that's something. And I'm not going to hate on it. I will say it is interesting and bold. And we'll see how it works.
And on that note, we'll transition over to the other league that has 1 point man as their front man. And we all know that's Shep because now he's a media star doing food reviews at stadiums.
Dude, food reviews? I'm hearing rumors of a pod.
I
hearing rumors.
I can't confirm or deny it.
God. All right, where are we at here? Let's talk Frontier.
Yeah, we're talking Frontier League now. The Arancini-based league has some playoff races going on here, and we think they are probably the best that Indy Ball has to offer right now because, well, this league loves to do the opposite of whatever I say is happening. So, like, last week I was like, I have no confidence in Ottawa to do anything right. And, like, New York will hold on to this. They have a 3-game lead. They're not going to piss that away. And what do? Kiss it away. Now they're trailing a game and a half. And they're 4.5 back of Sussex. So, boys, get on your horse. Catch Ottawa, please. Otherwise, I look like a real jackass. So if you guys want to, bail me out, would be great. Tri-City also looking really good right now. Didn't win tonight, but I mean, like, the hangover from winning last night and clinching your playoff spot.
Yeah,
by sweeping a header. So, like,
yeah, got it. That's a big way to get done.
Yeah, and at this point, they've locked up the number 1 wild card. They know they're going to be playing either Sussex or New York. So, like, at this point, what do you have? Right? There's 10 games left. You're back 6 at Quebec. Let's be real. You're not catching Quebec. So, you might as well line up pitching and start giving some guys rest days, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you got, like, Joliet on the schedule. And I think they may have one more New York series. I don't recall, though. Regardless, Tri-City's pretty much locked into that number 1 wild card. Quebec's going to have the number 1 overall spot, so they'll get either Ottawa or New York, more than likely. Sussex, that could be an important series at the end of the year. For New York, it's going to be important either way. That much is pretty much dead set now. And then if you shift to the West, Lake Erie and Washington are currently duking it out for the division, although Lake Erie seems to be looking like the better of those two. And Schaumburg and Gateway are desperately trying to see who wants to win the division and who wants to be the guy that has to go to either Avon, Ohio, or Washington, Pennsylvania, while Mississippi's been like slowly creeping their way into it, although getting smacked tonight.
Yeah.
Against Washington.
Jeez, Washington. Come on now. Play nice. That was a statement
right there. So those are the races we have going on here. There's about 10 games left. Where do we want to start with this?
I mean, I'm kind of looking at New York, Ottawa right now because I do feel like that's the best matchup. Let's see. It's just very interesting to me because, again, I was the one where I smelled that. I mean, I'd seen a few Boulders games and I was just like, I was so surprised by how bad they looked. I mean, obviously, really, it's going to come down to the series next week. I mean, unless, Ottawa can do themselves a favor this weekend by opening up a 3-game lead where even if they got swept, it doesn't do all the damage. But is this where you would have started here? Because this is definitely the one that has my full attention right now.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting race here. Okay. I want to say Mississippi, but like they really need a better showing than that tonight. Ideally, they would have gotten a sweep of Washington and made things tight. But I think at this point, the schedule's just working against them. That being said, Washington is not looking good either. We'll get to that later on, though. The New York Ottawa thing. New York had such a cushion, and we were talking about them taking the division for such a long time. And now
it's almost like when that fell apart, something broke.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels like, I mean, like they're going to have another 2 games against Down East. So you would assume they win those, which helps keep them up there. Although I believe it's 3 Rivers and Ottawa this week, so it's kind of a wash. Which then sets up a 6-game bout where it's very, 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 very important for both sides. I mean, New York's case, you have your last 3 home games that are going to be against Ottawa, and then your last 3 games of the regular season are all against Sussex.
Yeah.
Like this.
Both of them have that interesting like series coming up where it's like, will the team they're playing care? You know what I mean? Where like one versus Sussex, one versus Tri-City.
Well, I don't think Sussex is going to have the luxury of not caring. Because here's the thing. Yeah, they have 2 more games against the Jackals. That's going to be a wash considering the Walrus are playing Down East, so call that a wash. They then have 3 in Quebec.
Right, and if New York isn't within like threatening range of Sussex, that means New York's probably out of the race anyway. So I guess it probably wouldn't matter. Good point.
Yeah. So I mean, like you could argue that hey, like Quebec will have nothing left to play for here, but if you were to say Tri-City takes the next 2 against Joliet, Quebec has to keep pace. Otherwise, if they drop 2, Tri-City picks up 2 on them. All of a sudden, with 6 left to play, it's a 4-game gap. And you can't phone in the last 3, so you have to run guys out there. I was also mistaken. It's 3 Rivers and Quebec this week, so that shouldn't affect that much. And it's Brockton playing Ottawa. So still kind of a wash every which way. It just may complicate the very thin hope of Tri-City getting the division, which I suppose then kind of negates what I was just saying about Quebec taking their foot off the gas. That wouldn't be a possibility, but yeah.
So just for the record, I've kind of got the head-to-head matchup projector getting ready for the playoffs because I like to do sort of, win probabilities for series and games. And I just ran real quick sort of on what I've got set up here, a head-to-head for Ottawa and New York based on what their schedules are. And Ottawa is projected to win 4.04 games out of these last 8. And New York is projected to win 4.04 games out of their last 8. So schedule is not benefiting anybody. So it could come down partially to who has something to play for on that last weekend. And as you said, it's more likely Sussex will have something to play for. So that could be a bad omen for New York, who is going to need to gain ground here.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's where the issue really becomes for me with New York is that I don't see where they're going to get that ground.
I don't see it either. They had every opportunity, and
the doubleheader is what killed them. You had to win at least one of them. Mm-hmm. If you win at least one of them, then it's fine. Like it comes down to the Ottawa series, and right now, I don't know how insane and sound mind you could say, yeah, that Boulder team is going to beat up that Ottawa team. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be up there for at least one of those games, maybe 2, but I don't see it.
Yeah, they would have to really pull something that we just haven't seen them capable of. Right now, I mean, and you can break it down. I mean, the number of games they need to get in a row, it's not. They had that run going for a while. I feel they're, to be concise about it, I guess I feel like their pitching staff isn't consistent enough. And they had a run going there, that really long streak where they were winning a ton of games and getting on Sussex. That streak is maybe rose tinted in our heads because they gained that ground so quickly. And we do forget that Sussex did a lot of the work there by losing a lot of games. Yeah. But also on their longer runs, New York did tend to do that thing where they win against they got some they're good pitching lined up. They get some wins. They handle business, and then their softer pitching kind of sees the light of day. But they're playing a bad team and they get bailed out. So there's that. They've kind of hit the end of that run, and I think now the bell's tolling on that situation there. Yeah. So it's not overwhelmingly surprising, even as they're making the run on Sussex. I was excited about it, not in the way of like, oh, here comes that New York team I knew about. It was more in the way of, well, there's Sussex doing what we kind of thought they would do. Frankly, what's buried in this is the fact that Sussex kind of turned it around. And I'm kind of, they're not hot, but like they've at least stabilized in a way that I think we probably would have bet they never would.
Well, here's kind of the thing about that, right?
kill what I just said, do it.
Yeah. So, like, yes, they've turned it around a bit. I'm not going to take that from them. But, I mean...
I feel like you are, but continue.
But, like, you took 2 against Joliet, one of which was a really tight game. Then they dropped 2 to Down East, dropped 2 to Schaumburg. Yeah. And really their kind of turnaround, if we want to call it that, starts August 2nd, where they take the 2 or 3 in that series from Brockton. And then they went on to nearly sweep the whole road trip against Down East, only losing the getaway day game. And they lost it by 1. So it's more like we went and we beat the piss out of 2 really bad teams that we haven't played a lot of games against. Then lost to Schaumburg twice, clawed 1 out against Schaumburg. Then got into an absolute slugfest for a win on Saturday night against Down East at home before eking our way across what should have been a much bigger win stretch against garbage teams. And now they're beating up New Jersey, whom I assume they're going to finish beating up. Then I assume they'll get hit in the mouth against Quebec because, of course, and then they have whatever New York brings. So, like, yeah, they turned it around, but, like, look who they're turning it around against. And even, like, to be totally fair to them, we're hyping up Ottawa because they are turning their season around. And they have been hot, so it goes beyond just a little stretch here. It's been the way for about a month and a half now. But this, like, 10-game run is 4 against Three Rivers, 2 against New York, good wins. A sweep of Florence, good wins. Losing a series to Quebec. And then a lost series again to a sweep, I believe, at the hands of Three Rivers. And then you got to start going back further beyond that to really start to make it look better. It's just a lot of feasting on poor opponents that are these turnaround moments. So that's where I kind of get hung up on a lot of the East here, that I don't so much have the problem with the West.
I think the title has to, like the Atlantic Conference title has to run through the North. It just doesn't make sense any other way.
Yeah, it's just the problem I have with discerning these teams are not so much who's turning the season around, who's having issues. Although, obviously, when you dig deeper in, Sussex had issues with their pitching depth, and they really needed one more key bat in the lineup after some guys cooled down. And then Tri-City had their issues, and Quebec didn't really, have a way out of the rut, and New York had their front. And, like, everyone had their own thing. You could dive deeper into what it is. But the real, like, who's doing good, who's not doing good comes down to how is your schedule at any given point? Were you hitting the rough patch or were you hitting the light patch? Because when you're hitting the rough patch, that's when I went to shit. Realistically, Ottawa's turnaround didn't really happen until the start of Sussex downturn. It was that series that kind of turned stuff around for them. And that was the beginning of July.
And I think this is kind of like what I was saying today on Twitter of like, the Frontier League is at least fun this year. I'll give them that, because while it does bother me when a league has some good teams and then a bunch of bad teams, when it is structured in this particular way, the Frontier League is, where there's just a couple real bad teams, or at least one real bad team at the bottom of each division, it does allow for a team to get a good or above average team to get on a hot streak, combined with a couple beneficial scheduling series and just absolutely go on a 3-week heater that like tightens the division back up that you think is done. So that's at least fun, and I don't mind it. But yeah, it is one of those things, the Frontier League, where it is a little frustratingly about who you're playing at this point. Which, speaking of, I just ran those numbers again on Gateway versus Schaumburg, so we'll have to talk about that because it is way more interesting down in the Midwest than I would have expected. But yeah, I think I don't see much changing now in the Atlantic, which means certainly something disastrous will happen. Though I've kind of had a feel for the Atlantic so far. I called the Sussex fall apart, and I called the New York fall apart. So maybe I'm onto something there.
Yeah, I think, well, this week obviously is going to be really the last full week of the season for them. They'll wrap up Labor Day weekend. Last day of August is the last day of the regular season for them. So a midweek should tell us everything we need to know. I mean, either Ottawa's going to lock this thing up against New York, or New York's going to fight, keep this alive, and we're going to have a very interesting weekend push to the finish on that half. On the flip side of life here, going to that Midwest conference, you want to start Schaumburg Gateway?
Yeah, Schaumburg Gateway, man. It is still a race. I mean, 2 days ago, Gateway was leading by half a game. Now Schaumburg's up by a game and a half. Both of them have weird schedules in that Gateway has 3-on-3 with they have a game in hand. They have 3 against Florence, 3 against Mississippi, 3 against Evansville. Not quite the triumvirate of intimidation. Mm-hmm. Schaumburg has Lake Erie, and then they have Windy City and Florence. So again, a little squishy toward the end there. If we're running the numbers, like I said, the interesting thing, again, Gateway with a game in hand, they are projected to gain a half game on Schaumburg over this, so that will pull Gateway to within a game. So the question becomes, can Gateway find another game in that? Yeah, good. It depends what kind of Evansville team shows up at the end, and how motivated is Evansville to ruin Gateway's vibe, as well as Schaumburg and Florence. You could say the same. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, or who's more likely to have a headache? Evansville right now has won 9 in a row, so maybe it's a bad time to be playing the damn Otters.
Otters are hot.
Otters are hot, buddy. Well, I mean, it's all about who you're playing. They somehow beat Washington, though, so I'll give them that.
Washington's down on
Mississippi, Joliet, Windy City. But there's a strong chance Evansville's carrying an 11-game win streak into Florence, which who knows what they could do with Florence, and then they're going to Gateway. So
I'm relatively
the Otterbots are live. Like, it's happening.
Well, in fairness, Washington lost 7 straight. So, like, prior to tonight's ass kicking, that wasn't like, a tight fight.
Yeah.
I think Schaumburg's probably the better of the two teams. I think they've just been more consistent. So I think they're probably pulling that out. I don't know what their schedule looks like off the top of my head, but yeah, I kind of lean Schaumburg on that. I don't think it really matters per se, because I got a feeling that Schaumburg Gateway is going to be our West matchup anyway. And Mississippi trying to get that spot, it was fun while it lasted. It was a fun story, no doubt, and I wanted to see it go the length because, obviously. But that feels like it's kind of dead in the water now, too, after tonight.
Yeah, they're just not getting the help they need, because they're playing, if you were playing a team in the mix right now, they'd have to be playing Washington. Of course, they're stuck playing Gateway. So it's like, well, not really anything you can do. Like, it's entirely out of your own hands. I mean, it's not that Washington isn't capable of losing all those games. They just lost 7. But Mississippi's also going to have to get hot in a way that doesn't feel likely. They're just not hot at the right time. As evidenced by the fact that they finally got a big game and got absolutely smoked by nearly 2 touchdowns. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to rule it out if they were to win the next 2, right? They're right back into things.
They're close to Windy City. They're 7-2 against Windy City this year.
But yeah, back to that Schaumburg Gateway thing real quick. I don't like Schaumburg's lost some pieces as of recent contract acquisition wise. But man, they feel like the most complete team, don't they?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, they. Uh, Washington goes on runs. I guess here we talk so much about it's who you're playing. I think a lot of Washington's runs tend to be about who they're playing. A lot of Schaumburg's runs tend to be about Schaumburg. I mean, as well, it's hard to find teams like them where, they are the top offense in the league. I don't think there's really any arguing that. And they are also one of the top half of the pitching staffs in the league. So, no, they're not one of the top halves. They're around halfway. I'll give them that. They have fallen off a little bit, but for the most part, they can kind of keep themselves at least competitive in that. So that Washington pitching staff is interesting though, because they go on some runs where you're just like, like this is going to be something, but they need the offense to be consistent, and they've kind of lacked that. I don't know. Washington's pitching staff is impressive, even though I do think they've been less impressive of late.
What concerns me about Washington as a whole, though, is just their inability to win on the road against quality opponents. That concerns me greatly.
A fair concern coming down to the playoff stretch, yes.
Yeah, like we have enough of a sample size to where it's not just a weird thing, it's a legit thing. And like when you are going to be a road team, because I mean, like at best case is that you manage to steal this division from Lake Erie, which seems kind of doubtful right now.
Yeah.
Not totally, set in stone, but Lake Erie is the betting favorite in my eyes. That means you're going to be traveling a lot. Even if you get through the series, even if you were to win the division, you'd be traveling after this. So I just don't see you getting through 3 rounds as a poor road team in a best of 3, best of 5 when you're playing most of your games on the road.
Do have a winning record on the road against Lake Erie, though, so don't know what to make of that. Showed up for that one. How to go against Gateway? Not as well. So, yeah. And also, I mean, it's just not the best version of Washington showing up to the party at this point. And so much of it is about who you're showing up at the gate with. And, they don't inspire a ton of confidence with this current assembly. So, yeah. I don't know. I think this works out. I think Lake Erie, I think this one holds pretty solid. I don't know. Let's see. I think Schaumburg hangs on in the West. I think Lake Erie hangs on in the Central. And I think, Gateway and Washington get it done without any drama. So I do think this is what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
So then remind me, what do they do again? Do they seed it by overall record? What's the deal there? They don't go division by division, do they?
I believe it's
by God, they do division by division? Okay,
so
thank God.
Best division winner gets the worst wild card.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're looking at Washington, Schaumburg, and Gateway Lake Erie. That's fun.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much. Fun.
Even the flip side, it's going to be fun. You're going to have Sussex and Tri-City. You're going to have Quebec and then either Ottawa, which would be a really fun series. Or
that would be good, dude. They're both so hot right now, too. We didn't give enough credit to the fact that both Quebec and Ottawa won 9 out of their last 10. Quebec is doing the thing again, by the way. We're not sleeping on it. It's just we have other things to talk about. Quebec has done it again. 8 in a row. They're 62-26. They are nightmare fuel. It's happening again. Playoffs are coming. It's finally springtime in Canada, and Quebec is ready.
And they don't like each other either. That Ottawa-Quebec series got a little bit of hate.
So spicy. If I was allowed in Canada, I would totally go.
Yeah, right. So I think that's where we're going to leave it here. We'll have a pretty good picture next week. Either we'll be doing some playoff preview work, or we're going to be talking about how wild of a midweek it was. So on that note, you want to do some plugs, and then we'll get out of here. Because it's nearly 3 in the morning, and I will have to edit this at some point.
Womp womp. Indie Ball Nation on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I don't know what I'm going with here. We'll figure it out. I was just talking to Nick a lot pre-show about what this channel is going to become now with my new work schedule and all that. So as always, I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing here. Anyway,
stay tuned for more. Indie Ball Report everywhere except for Twitter. That's Indie Ball Pod. Gonna be working on some stuff. Tease something on Twitter today, which I sent you a text about, and I'm gonna make that happen. So nice. It'll be fun.
Hell yeah.
But yeah. So So keep an eye out for all that. We're gonna have playoff previews going when they go up. So, yeah. All right. Until next time, don't forget to play ball.